Welcome guys, this is Alco1993 with Duel 56, which is also deck request video number 8. MrKevinCheek has made his second deck request, and here it is, Dragunities. And I don't exactly start with the best hand here, but I'll be able to work my way around it. You'll see next turn. Yeah, I start off with playing Zephyros and placing Bottomless face down because I'm afraid of Heavy Storm, and Book of Moon and Mystical Space Typhoon can be used from my hand the next turn. So I just play Bottomless to see whatever, to take out whatever he plans to summon, because he probably has something that can beat Zephyros in attack power. He plays Pot of Duality, making him unable to special summon this turn, but he can add one of those 3 cards to his hand, and the other 2 are back in his deck. And he adds Torrential Tribute, so I know that that one of the face down cards he's going to place at the end of his turn is going to be Torrential, so I'm going to have Mystical Space Typhoon destroy that. He summons Thunder King, which for one is stronger than Zephyros, but second can block my special summons, and which I don't like, so bye bye. And Dragon Ravine would also partially be stopped by Thunder King, so I'm glad it's gone. Here I play Dragon Ravine, which has 2 possible effects. You can activate its effect once per turn. First one, discard a card and then add a level 4 or lower Dragunity from deck to hand. The second one is still to discard a card, but then send a Dragunity from any monster from your deck to grave. Now, usually in Dragunity decks you want Dragunity Phalanx in your graveyard, because there's a big combo where you need Phalanx in the graveyard for that. Sorry. So, but in this case, I added Phalanx to my hand so I could use cards of Consonance, discard it, getting it in the graveyard anyway, but then drawing 2 more cards. Now, Dragunity Knight Vajrayana is an important part of this combo, because when it's synchro summoned, you can equip it with a level 3 or lower dragon type Dragunity from your grave, which in the combo is Phalanx. Phalanx can use its ability to special summon itself when it's equipped to a monster, and then you can synchro it with Vajrayana again to get a level 8 synchro out, like Stardust Dragon, Thought Ruler, Archfiend, Crimson Blader, those kind of things. But I decided to use Vajrayana's effect instead, sending its equipped Phalanx to the graveyard, doubling its attacks to deal a lot of damage, because I knew whatever would be coming I could stop it with Solemn Judgment. Here he places a set monster, and I'm thinking, I have Dragon Ravine, I'm trying to go for Dragunity Ducks. But then I draw Dragunity Ducks. I'm like, alright, I don't need Dragon Ravine this turn. I summon Ducks, and Ducks, when it's summoned, can equip itself with a level 3 or lower Dragon type Dragunity from the grave. In the combo, Phalanx. Used to then special summon Phalanx, synchro it for Vajrayana, and then what I just explained to get a level 8 out. So with just Ducks in your hand and Phalanx in the grave, you can get a level 8 synchro. And this deck runs 3 Phalanx and 3 Ducks, so you can get quite a bit out. But yeah, he stops me with Effect Veiler, so I just decided to continue attacking here. Attack with Vajrayana, but he has a Spirit Reaper, so I can't exactly do anything there. I was thinking Book of Moon could work, because then I'd target it with a card, and Spirit Reaper, when targeted by a spell, trap, or effect monster, it's destroyed. But that effect only kicks in after the effect that targets it is done resolving. And after Book of Moon is done resolving, Spirit Reaper will be face down, and as a face down monster, its effect doesn't activate. So that's why I didn't use it. Now, here my opponent summons Photon Saber Tiger, which when normal summoned can add another Photon Saber Tiger from your deck to your hand, and I don't really see any threat in that right here, so I just let him go. Don't want to waste 3,800 life points on just that. Here he goes into synchro summoning for Leviar, wanting to bring Thunder King back from being banished, but I'm like, no. Book of Moon him, and then here he already admits defeat because he sees that he won't be able to win, because I can just attack with Ducks and then Zephyros and Vajrayana. And here we are, back once again on Dueling Network, because we're going to do the deck profile like we always do with deck requests. Deck constructor, let's go for Dragunity Crush, my Dragunity deck for MrKevinCheek. Right, starting off we have 3 Blackwing Zephyros the Elite. There's two reasons I have these cards in my deck. First of all, because it's a level 4 winged beast type, meaning it can be used as a synchro material to bring out Vajrayana. And secondly, Zephyros has an effect which I did use in the duel, because when Zephyros is in the graveyard, once per duel you can activate Zephyros's effect, any Zephyros's effect, returning one face-up card you control to the hand, special summoning Zephyros from the graveyard, and then you take 400 damage. That way, I can usually what I do is I return Dragon Ravine, because a field spell you can just place it back on the field without any costs. So usually what I do is I use Dragon Ravine's effect, then use Zephyros, bring Ravine back to the hand, then just place it on the field again, so that I can bring Zephyros back on the field without much cost, just those 400 life points. But a second advantage to that is because Dragon Ravine left the field and then entered it again, I can use its effect a second time that same turn, which sometimes is very helpful. Right, now I'm going to skip a few monsters, go into a few others first, before I go into this guy. It's Dragunity Dex and Dragunity Phalanx. I've already explained about these guys in the duel. Dragunity Dex, it gains 200 attack for every Dragunity card you control, so that's also equips. So that already makes him quite a dangerous beater, but the thing it's mostly used for is when it's normal summoned, you can select a level 3 or lower Dragon type Dragunity in your graveyard, and then you can equip it to it as an equip card. So in this deck, either Ackless or Phalanx, but there's a lot of Dragon type Dragunities that you potentially can use, but I just use Ackless and Phalanx in this deck. So usually it'll be Phalanx, and then use Phalanx effect to special summon it, and then into Vajrayana, usually if the situation calls for it, Brionac, but Vajrayana usually. And then Vajrayana usually pretty much always gets Phalanx. Phalanx special summons itself, and then one of this level 8 synchros. But sometimes, like in the duel, I use Vajrayana's effect instead and get Phalanx to the grave and doubling its attacks, because that can also work. I have one copy of Dragunity Ackless. When Dragunity Ackless is a level 2 Dragon type tuner, just like Phalanx. And when Ackless is normal summoned, you can take a Dragunity monster from your graveyard, I believe. No, wait. A Dragunity monster from your hand, special summon it, and then equip Ackless to that monster. So not that monster to Ackless, but Ackless to that monster. So let's say you have Dux, but you don't have any Phalanx in the grave. You could summon Ackless, use its effect to summon Dux, and then Ackless becomes an equip to Dux, and then Dux will at least have 1900 attack. And what it could also be used for is with Dragunity Legionnaire. That's Ackless, what makes Ackless most dangerous. Like Dux and Phalanx work well together, but also Ackless and Legionnaire. Legionnaire is only level 3, so, and the reason there's one level 3 in here is the reason I have this level 5 synchro, which clearly is Catastrophe, because that's pretty much the best level 5 synchro you have. Because when Legionnaire is normal summoned, same as with Dux, you can get a level 3 or lower Dragon type Dragunity from your grave and equip it to him. I could do Phalanx and then go for Catastrophe, but that's not usually what I do. With Legionnaire, I usually go for Ackless, because together their effects will work really well. Because Legionnaire, you can when Legionnaire is equipped with a Dragunity card, which usually is Ackless with this deck, you can send that card to the graveyard, select one face-up monster the opponent controls, and destroy it. So that way you can get rid of any of their face-up monsters. And then Ackless effect will go off, because when it's sent to the graveyard while equipped to a card, and in this case it's Legionnaire, you can select one card on the field and destroy it. Any card. So it can be a face-up spell, a face-down spell, a trap, a monster, a face-down monster, whatever. But be careful. Dragunity Ackless is a mandatory destruction effect. You have to use it. So when the opponent only controls one face-up monster, and that's it, you will use Legionnaire's effect to get rid of that monster, but then Ackless will go off and you'll be forced to destroy something you own yourself. So be careful with that. In my deck I also have 2 copies of Dragunity Arma Mistletanes, which you can special summon from your hand by tributing a Dragunity you control, which pretty much can be any Dragunities, that doesn't really matter. And when it's either normal or special summoned, but usually special, you can select, just like with Ducks and Legionnaire, a Dragunity from your graveyard, a Dragunity from your grave, and equip it to this card. But Mistletoe doesn't say Dragon type, and it doesn't say level 3 or lower. But I'll go for Atlas or Phalanx because there's no real reason why I would want to equip Ducks or Legionnaire, because that doesn't give them really any additional effects. And just like with Ducks, with Mistletoe, I also usually go for Phalanx to then special summon it again to get a level 8 Synchro out. I have 1 copy of Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dragons here, and then I have dragons here, and Stardust and Scrap Dragon are also dragon. Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon is one of the biggest cards in Chaos Dragons, if not the biggest card, and it's also very useful in Hieratics, but also in Dragunities, because, well, any deck with dragons pretty much, because you can, if you have it in your hand, you can banish 1 face-up dragon you have, and then special summon it from your hand. And then, once per turn, Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon can special summon any dragon type from your hand or graveyard. Any, even if it's like level 8, 9, 10, as long as it does, that specific monster doesn't have any summon limitations. Like, you can just summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand, or I don't know, Heretic, whatever the shit thing from your graveyard. I don't know. I could also summon Mistletoe from my hand. I could potentially use Metal Dragon to summon Mistletoe from my hand. Then, because Mistletoe was special summoned from the hand, I can use Mistletoe's effect to get Phalanx, to get Stardust or something. Metal Dragon can do a lot, and it can still attack the turn it uses the effect, so very, very, very powerful. I have 1 copy of Book of Moon. You saw it being used in the duel. Flips 1 face-up monster, the opponent, any face-up monster on the field to face-down defense position. I have 2 copies of Cards of Consonance. Yeah, you can use it by discarding a Dragon-type tuner with 1,000 or less attack, so that's either Atlas or one of the 3 Phalanxes I have in this deck, and then you can draw 2 cards, which definitely proved useful in this duel. 3 copies of Dragon Ravine. That's pretty much a must in the Dragunity deck, because it's a very, very useful field spell. And as I just told you with Zephyros, that you can even use it twice per turn if you want, because you can discard a card and then activate one of its 2 effects. One of them is add a level 4 or lower Dragunity from your deck to your hand, and the second is send a dragon type from deck to grave. With the discarding, that is usually what I use to get Phalanx in the graveyard. The discarding already. But I could potentially also discard Zephyros to then use its effect afterwards. And then, when I choose the effect of add a level 4 lower Dragunity from deck to hand, I usually go for Ducks, because then Phalanx will be in the graveyard, and then I can go Vajrayana, Stardust, Thought Rule, Archfiend, or whatever that. And when I decide to send a dragon from the deck to the graveyard, that's usually Phalanx, because Phalanx isn't there yet. I might have Ducks in my hand, but not Phalanx in the graveyard, so then I'll use Dragon Ravine to get Phalanx in the graveyard. I could also send a dragon to the graveyard so I can summon it back with Metal Dragon, so then I can send Mistletoe to the grave, so I can summon it with Metal Dragon. Just depends on the situation how you're going to use it. In this deck I also run 2 copies of Forbidden Lance, very useful. Makes monsters, if you use Lance on a monster, that monster loses 800 attack for the turn, but is unaffected by spells and traps, so you can save yourself from like Mirror Force, but you can also make your monster win a battle that usually it wouldn't win because its attack is lower. Heavy Storm should speak for itself. Monster Reborn can bring a monster back from the graveyard, very helpful. 2 Mystical Space Typhoons to get rid of spells and traps. A Pot of Avarice, because you get monsters in your graveyard quite quickly with Ducks, Phalanx, and Dragunity Ravine. You get monsters in the grave quite quickly. Terraforming to search for Dragon Ravine, because Dragon Ravine is really a must in this deck, as I said, so getting it out as quick as possible. That's why I have the 3 terraformings. 2 copies of Bottomless Trap Hole to get rid of annoying summons of 1500 or more attack, like Thunder King of the Duel. 1 Compulse to return a monster to the hand. Could potentially be used on one of my monsters as well, but usually it's the opponent's monsters that I get rid of. I have 3 copies. Sorry guys, I'm yawning. It's past 10 p.m., but I wanted to make the video because I promised people I would make it today. But yeah, Fiendish Chain. You can use it on any effect monster in the field, and that monster can't attack, and its effects are negated as well. So that way you can do 2 things in one shot. Solemn Judgment should be well known with you all. You pay half your life points, but you can negate a summon, but also a spell or trap. And Solemn Warning, 2,000 life points instead of half your life points, and you can negate any summon or any effect that would summon a monster. And then I have 1 copy of the Transmigration Prophecy. When I started the duel, I was like, why did I have this card in my deck again? I think now I remember, because when I have like all 3 of the Duxes in my graveyard or something, and I may want them back in the deck so I can draw them and use their effects again, I use that to get it back in the deck. Although there must be some other reason that I put it in the deck, but to be very honest, I can't remember. But I'll tell you later when I remember. Sorry. Extra deck, I have an Ally of Jessica Catastor. I just only have 1 level 5 because all my tuners are level 2 and I only have 1 level 3 Legionnaire. So that's only 1 level 5, and Catastor should speak for itself. I have 3 copies of Dragunity Knight Vajrayana. I've explained the effects before, so that should be clear now. And 1 copy of Brionac, because that's the most used level 6 synchro monster out there, and it's very useful. I was actually planning to use it in the duel I just showed to get rid of the monster, just in case they would have something special else waiting for me or something, but it didn't really matter. I would have won anyway, and the opponent even admitted defeat before I started my final turn, so didn't really matter. I have 2 copies of Stardust Dragon. I have 5 level 8 synchros in all, and 2 copies of Stardust Dragon, because it could just negate any effect that would destroy anything. And that is just very helpful. It can save you from Torrential Tribute, from Bottomless Trap Hole, from Mirror Force, from Dark Hole, but it can also stop Mystical Space Typhoon and Heavy Storm and such cards. So go Stardust. I have Thought Ruler Archfiend. Ever since I first got this card in the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship 2009 game, I've always loved this card because it's a strong level 8 synchro, and when it destroys a monster by battle, you gain attack. You gain life points equal to that destroyed monster's attack, so you can get life points quite quickly, and you can replenish anything you might have lost before. And when it's targeted by a card effect, by a spell or trap card, you can pay 1,000 life points and just destroy that. And pretty sure it also negates. Yeah, it negates that card as well. I have Scrap Dragon. Quite a well-known level 8 synchro as well. Once per turn, you can select 1 card you control and 1 your opponent controls and destroy both. And it has another effect, but that's only useful when it's used in a scrap deck, which this is not, so I won't be going into that. The final level 8 synchro, I was thinking Red Dragon Archfiend and a few others, but in the end I went for the Crimson Blader. It's an OCG only card, but I went for Crimson Blader anyway, because when there are quite a few decks these days, some of the meta as well, that focus on bringing out their big monsters, which are level 5 or above. And when Crimson Blader destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the grave, so it has to go to the grave and not like be banished or something, then the opponent cannot normal or special summon level 5 or higher monsters during their next turn. So no Cyber Dragon, but also no Judgment Dragon for Light Sworns, no Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. Would they be running anything of dragons or chaos thingy with him in it? No big guns of level 5 or above. Xyz monsters can still work because they don't have levels, but they can't special summon any level 5 or higher, so that can be really useful. It's proven really useful in one duel before, which I haven't recorded, but Crimson Blader can definitely help. Then I have 5 Xyz monsters. I decided to put in 1 rank 4. I was There's a lot of good rank 4s in it, but in the end I decided to go with MrKevinCheek the Symphony Djinn, because once per turn you can use its effect to flip an opponent's face-up attack position monster into face-down defense. It's sort of a monster version of Book of Moon, but Book of Moon just focuses on a face-up monster, and for MrKevinCheek it has to be in face-up attack position. And also, when MrKevinCheek would be destroyed, you can detach an Xyz material, and then it won't be destroyed. I could have also used cards like Photon, Papal-Operative, number 50, Blackhorn. Those are useful sometimes, not that often. Utopia, number 39, is also a very useful rank 4 because it can negate attacks, but I decided to go with MrKevinCheek because it can flip a monster into defense, meaning sometimes the monster has really high attack but really low defense, and then you can beat it that way. And also it can save itself from destruction, so that way it can stall for a bit as well. Like, you can't get rid of MrKevinCheek with Bottomless or Torrential or Mirror Force. Utopia will die from one shot, so that's why I went with MrKevinCheek. I have two copies of Heretic Dragon King of Atum, because there is a chance I'll have two Vajranas on the field, like with Ducks and then Phalanx, and then I get a Vajrana, but then just like I did in the duel, I use Vajrana's effect and keep it on the field. I might get a second one of that. Then I will go into Atum and detach an Xyz material, special summon any dragon from my deck. Probably I'll go for Red Eyes Darkness Metal, so that I can then summon another dragon with attack power, because the dragon summoned by Atum doesn't have any attack power. But then Atum can't attack that turn, but Gaia Dragoon the Thunder Charger can then Chaos Xyz chains onto Atum, gets a piercing effect, and it can still attack that turn. Another very helpful rank 6 Xyz is Photon Strike Bouncer, and because let's see, how do I explain this one well? If an effect activates on the opponent's field of an effect monster, you can detach one Xyz material from Photon Strike Bouncer and inflict 1,000 damage to the opponent. That the effect is negated. But the card that activates the effects, let's say the opponent uses Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, the card isn't destroyed, so Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon does stay on the field. The effect is negated, and 1,000 damage is inflicted, but the card does stay on the field. And right now I'm just thinking, I have two Atums, but Atum can only be summoned in this deck via Vajrana, and the chance of having Vajrana, two of them on the field, isn't that high, so... But having that happen twice, no, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to take out an Atum. But usually what happens, apparently, when I do deck profiles of deck requests, I usually take out a card. Let's think. I could use Constellar, Ptolemy's Messier 7, or target one card on the field or in the grave and return it to the hand. Or Swordbreaker, which can be very helpful. Gonna go with this card. The reason I'm going with this one is because, one, it can rid the field of one of the opponent's monsters. It's like Compulse in that case. But also, it can take a card from the grave and add it to your hand, so you can like get a Dux from your graveyard back into your hand to use it with Phalanx once again and get the Stardust out or something. So, I think that that'll be a very useful card. In the side deck, I have two Chain Disappearance. That's used against Insectors and Dino Rabbits mostly. Two Effect Veilers, should be clear why that's useful. Don't have it in the main deck because I really need to focus on the Winged Beasts and the Dragons and the Dragunities, but I can't side these in. Two Kokimeru Dragos. When it's on the field, light and dark monsters cannot be special summoned. That does stop Zephyros from using its effect and Darkness Metal from being special summoned, but the rest of my deck can still work with that. Two Prohibition. When you activate it, you declare one card name, and cards with the card name you say that can't be used. If you like facing Dino Rabbits, they focus on Rescue Rabbits. So if you play Prohibition against Dino Rabbits and you say Rescue Rabbit, then the opponent can't use Rescue Rabbit the whole duel unless they somehow have Prohibition leave the field, like with Heavy Storm. Two Snow Man-Eaters, pretty much a powered up Man-Eater bug, and it's not a flip effect, even though it is effect that activates when flip faced up. It's almost a flip effect, but not exactly. Mirror Force, should be clear. Mystical Space Typhoon, if the opponent has quite a lot of spells and traps that I need to get rid of. Darkholds, if they have a lot of monsters, I'll set this in. And 2 Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors to stop any effects that activate on the field or in the graveyard that are dark monsters, like they're quite helpful against Chaos Dragons and such. But it does stop, again, Zephyros and Darkness Metal, but the rest works fine. Alright guys, this was deck request, I believe it was 8, I said it at the start of this video, but yeah. This was MrKevinCheek deck request for the Dragunity deck. And I will see you guys soon, because I plan on doing quite a lot of decks soon. Yeah, just finished another deck request deck earlier today, and I'm going to try and do a lot of them very soon, very quickly this week, next week, because I'm going to the States in 3.5 weeks, and I want to have a lot of things done before then. Also, admin exam, the new one is tomorrow. Let's hope I'll make it. See you later.